So the cars are in place, the red lights are on, and the Carmel Porsche Trophy is underway. It's a very poor start for Stephen Cunniff on the outside of the front row, so he's lost a couple of places, but it's Steve Hewson who leads, with John Walker in what is second position as the field flow their way through turn one. For third position, it's Richard Harmon who gets the better of the slow start in Stephen Cunniff, and then the rest of the field make their way down into the second corner, the banking for the first time. And as we expected, the field just starts to spread out at this stage, but with some battles out there as well, as running wide was Cunniff as he loses out to the car of Paul Simpson that makes his way into fourth.
Another car that ran wide as well, I think Andrew Peck, quite possibly, maybe going off in sympathy of Stephen Cunniff. Yeah, his race just hasn't started, has it, from the outside of the front row? And every credit to John Walker, who needed to react very quickly to a car that was crawling away from the grid at walking pace. Now, it might be that Stephen Cunniff just needs some laps underneath him before he starts to find a bit more pace. There's a big wiggle there from the number 88 car, which is Paul Simpson, who started from fifth position. Despite the lack of speed around Peel, he's still diving up the inside of Christian Walker to maybe gain a position. But Steve Hewson, maybe he thought there was going to be some threat early doors from Stephen Cunniff. It's not there at the moment, but there's 15 minutes for Stephen Cunniff to try and turn the tables.
I would expect it may have been Patrick Scharfegger that set the time in that car, who we'll see tomorrow. So Stephen Cunniff perhaps just falling more into the natural order of his pace. But for Steve Hewson then in the Cayman that he raced in Club Enduro last year with success, completes the first lap as the leader from the 944 Turbo of Richard Harmon. Then John Walker up into third position. For Steve Cunniff, he's still battling away there, I think, with Christian Walker, the teenager from Berkshire, who's just about slotted up ahead into that additional position. 96 getting involved in that little squabble as well, which is the car driven by Andrew Peck, and he's 968. So a nice battle developing then for what is fifth position between Walker and Cunniff just behind in a couple of the Boxster S machines, which are such a popular car nowadays. I guess you can race a Porsche on a fairly decent budget with a Boxster S, and you've also got then some of the more classic front engine cars involved in these battles with Andrew Peck just behind.
Yeah, Andrew Peck again was a little ragged on that first lap, but he's tidied things up since then, and as you say, established himself now in at least sixth, and possibly bothering Cunniff to force a mistake from Stephen to gain another position. It's not forthcoming just yet, but they've got these two long straights now to negotiate. And in fact, no, Peck's still not by Cunniff just yet. They're stretching out almost into chevron formation behind, and headed by Sam Callahan in the 44. Tucked in behind is Gary Goodwin, so Callahan's got ahead of Goodwin from their grid positions. And then is that another 968 in the queue, just tucked in behind? I reckon it is, behind those two Caymans.
Yeah, so that's a great battle as they come up across the line now, just behind Stephen Cunniff in the 199 machine, who's there ahead of Andrew Peck still. Then Sam Callahan, Gary Goodwin, Jamie McHugh, all involved in that battle as well. So we can see there 46, Gary Goodwin, just behind Sam Callahan, the driver from Essex, who was an X Factor finalist 10 years ago, but now has turned his attention to cars, which seems much more sensible.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's 5 minutes of fame or a full season of entertainment. Surely no competition there, as the 72 of Mike Kurtler is jostling for position with the blue 68 tucked in behind. Is that 68? I think I might have misread the number. Steve Hewson is 68, leading in fact. Meanwhile, into Rocket Corner now, nose to tail, between Gary Goodwin and the 44 car. So again, some movement. Sam Callahan had been ahead of Gary Goodwin, and now he's back behind again. These two trying to get a little closer to Andrew Peck's 968.
Yeah, for some reason, Sam Callahan's dropped off our timing tower there on the left-hand side. So we'll try and get that back for you. But anyway, Steve Cunniff, who was losing positions, is still just about keeping Andrew Peck behind him as they turn their way through the right-hander at hairpin. In the classes, leading class 1 is Steve Hewson, in class 2 is Paul Simpson, who's just keeping the car of John Walker at bay. Then in class 3, Jamie McHugh leads the way, and in class 4 it's Hugh Pert. So lots of class battles as well as inter-class battles out there as well. And around the outside into turn 1, we saw, I think that was Gary Goodwin, make a move as he passed the car of Andrew Peck. So a change there at turn 1. So some good racing here, just a little bit further behind the leaders.
So you ran through classes 1 to 4. We also have class X. Now, is that for exempt cars? Invitation. So rather than an I, read X. You often see that in other categories as well, either exempt or extra special. And Richard Harman is in one of those cars in a 944 Turbo, so right up there in second position, but therefore not scoring points. Because, well, it's not strictly a championship, is it? Because it's their one-off races at the All Porsche Trophy.
Not picking up any class trophies at the end of the day.
That's a shame.
But he gets to enjoy racing on the field.
And he's getting plenty of coverage on Alpha Live as well, being that far up. About 3.2 seconds away from the race leader, Steve Hewson. Not quite at half distance for this 15-minute race. Keeping an eye as well, and 10th place for Jamie McHugh in the second of the 968s, but that is a Class 3 Porsche 968.
Slow in there was 96, Andrew Peck, who was well inside the top 10. This is the battle for Class 2 that heads up towards the final corner with Paul Simpson, who I think he's making his Carmel Porsche Trophy debut, just ahead of John Walker, the ex-Caterham and Lotus racer. Involved in this battle, you've got a couple of variations on the Martini livery, haven't you, in this little scrap, which is, of course, a classic Porsche colour scheme. So those cars just turning their way up here to the final corner. So that includes at the front of it 661, which is Andrew Juice, who I think started a little bit further up the order. But he's only in 10th, isn't he? He's only one place further back than where he started. He was just ahead of Graham Hurd, Mike Cutler. And we've had a spinner, have we, on screen there, Steve Cunniff?
Yeah. Coming out of turn 1, I think, only a half spin, but it did end up on the grass, and he needed to do a quick U-turn to recover that situation. That's the car that started from the front row, remember, but Josh making the point that it was likely to be his teammate who set the time earlier in the day, and Stephen Cunniff now having to recover the bits, probably fallen outside of the top 10 as a result of that. Yeah, now behind Mike Kurtler, so that will be 12th position for Stephen Cunniff.
So he'll be looking to make some of those positions up, because the results of this race does set the grid for tomorrow morning's race. Lead gap is 3.2 seconds between Steve Hewson and Richard Harman. Hewson set the fastest lap at 1 minute 40.8. Still Paul Simpson is there in third, ahead of John Walker, who's being caught by his son Christian. So Christian Walker in 5th position, starting to catch Dad John. So we'll look to see if that is a battle. In the past, those two drivers have shared a car, but for this season they've got a Boxster S each. Battle down here into the hairpin, which involves 72, Mike Kurtler, who gets up the inside of Graham Hurd. Novice Cross on the back of the Martini liveried car of Kurtler. And I wonder if Steve Cunniff might be able to make his way up ahead of them, because we've seen him run further up the order before his spin.
It is at least good to see Graham Hurd on the track, though, because he ended his qualifying session, parked up on one of the link roads, I think for the club circuit, and was there for a long time before, at the end of the session, his car was recovered. But clearly that's been a relatively easy fix at some point today to get the car out for the race start, and he's circulating in 11th position in that yellow, orange, red smart livery, which sort of changes the closer you get to the front of the car.
It's nice, there's lots of different liveries out there as well, isn't there, in this grid? And they make their way then uphill towards Rocket once more. So these all similar Porsche Boxster S's involved in this battle. So the 72 car of Kurtler stays clear then of Graham Hurd, with Steve Cunniff just behind them at this stage, but a little wide there for Hurd. So Cunniff now looks to the inside through Peel, and he can't quite make it work. So they stay in the same order at this stage of the race on lap 6 of the motor race, which is about to be completed by Steve Houston, with potentially the lead gap starting to come down between him and Richard Harman. On the previous lap, Harman was a couple of tenths quicker, and as they complete the 6th lap of the race, the gap has come down to 2.2 seconds, the smallest gap we've seen between the top two for a while.
All right, well, Steve Houston should have a bit more to give if the car is still beneath him. Has already set a 140.88, but dropped down into the 142s, as you've mentioned. Side by side here as well, 903 to the outside, which is Ken Van Houen, who we mentioned started towards the rear. That is very much an X-Class car.
This is a 1973 Porsche 911 with a 3.2 litre Carrera engine that in the past has raced in American club racing, but has been brought over to the UK for the driver from Surrey. And it's a great looking car, isn't it? This Porsche 911 is probably one of the oldest cars on the grid. Perhaps with a few modifications that take the 911 shape away a little bit, which obviously it's been done when it was racing in the States.
Including that ridiculously large rear wing, but it looks superb. Straight out of the Nürburgring, I would say, and you just need to paint it orange and stick Jägermeister on the side perhaps, and yeah, it would be right back in period, but thanks to Ken for bringing that to Anglesey, and again, varying the field yet further.
We've got a great battle between a whole host of 924s and a few other cars as well involved in this battle that comes up across the line for what is 20th position in the race. You've got Alvaro Crago's 968, 944 in there, as well as Rich Gravestock. Then the 924s are Phil Waters and Hugh Pert as well. For the race leaders, they are starting a lap traffic as well, aren't they, as they complete 7 laps. There's still just a couple of seconds between Steve Houston and Richard Harman. There should be 2 laps to go. Behind them, the battle for Class 2 has the top 3 together. And Christian Walker's got ahead of his dad, hasn't he? He's got into 4th position, up ahead of John Walker, but it's still Paul Simpson who leads Class 3. There they are, just heading through, ahead of Class 2, I should say, as they turn their way through the banking. But this battle far from over with 2 laps to go, Johnny.
Certainly not. And a little look there from the sky blue car to the inside of Church. It would have been brave to try something there for Christian Walker. John Walker tucked in behind, though, ready to take advantage should it come his way. They're going to lap Ken von Bauer, and meanwhile, big plume of smoke on the start-finish straight. I expected an engine to have gone bang there, but maybe it was more so tyre smoke. Strange place for it to appear, though, on the main straight between bus stop and turn 1. Meantime, here's the scrap then for 3rd, 4th and 5th positions to decide who finishes on the P2 podium, and indeed the overall podium, because it's looking like we're going to have 3 different classes represented on that overall podium.
And Christian Walker looks to the outside. We've had a spin for Andy Baker, I think that is in 28. Now, we saw that big plume of smoke going up towards turn 1, and we've seen a car spin. So whether you want to put 2 and 2 together and what you make out of that, we'll see what happens. But here is Dad now looking up the inside of Christian Walker. So they're wheel to wheel, but Christian hangs on, the 19-year-old university student. Not sure what you were doing when you were 19, Johnny, but probably wasn't racing Porsches, I guess.
Sadly not, no. A misspent youth, but not in these German machines. It would have been nice to have done that. But yeah, get him started early, and I'm sure he's already an absolute Porsche addict. We'll see. It will be interesting to know how many cars he will own through the course of his lifetime, and indeed race. So 99 is the suspicion that it's the smoking car. By the way, we're inside a lap time now, well inside it at 49 seconds. That's Graham Hurd in the 99 car. I spoke, did I not, about his issues earlier in the day, Josh?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We got off the circuit now is John Walker, and Christian Walker's taken the lead in the class. So not quite sure what happened up there at Church Corner, but a bit of a moment. We're on the last lap of the race now. Steve Houston still leads by 2.6 seconds, but it's all changed behind with Christian Walker through. You can see the smoke pluming out the back of Graham Hurd's car there, but looks like he's going to try and continue on this final lap of the race. But for Steve Hewson, the 55-year-old from the West Midlands, leads the way, as he did at Donington Park. He's raced all sorts of cars over the last 10 years or so. The Club Enduro champion from 2018, nowadays moving to the Calm All Porsche Trophy, and he's going to take another victory, it would seem, here at Anglesey in the second race of the season. There he is in his Cayman. He turns left then and will accelerate up towards the line in his 2-litre turbocharged car, and he sees the checkered flag first. But he was pushed pretty much all the way by Richard Harmon, who comes home in second. And off the circuit goes one of the Class 2 leaders, Paul Simpson, and he has a big spin across the track. So for third position, Christian Walker. I'm not sure if Simpson got past Walker again, and then Simpson had that spin into the final corner. Into the pit lane has come Andrew Peck, who I think had a few issues during the course of that race. So who finished third? That was Christian Walker. He won Class 2 ahead of his dad, John. Gary Goodwin took fifth. Sixth, I think, still went the way of Paul Simpson, despite that spin a few moments ago. Luckily, he wasn't collected by anybody. He took fifth in the end, just ahead of Gary Goodwin. Sam Callahan was seventh in the Class 3 win, went to Jamie McHugh, who took eighth, ahead of Andrew Juice and Mike Kurtler, who were in different classes. Looks like Clayton Sampson is on for second in Class 3, ahead of Thomas McHugh. In Class 4, it's Hugh Pert in his 924 who led on to the final lap of the race, and we'll see if he can hang on to take the Class 4 win, where we find the Porsche 924s that in the past have had their own championship, now as a class within the All Porsche Trophy. And in a few moments' time, we will get Hugh up across the line. And it was Ivor Mayers, who's not here, who won that class last time out at Donington. Perhaps he was a lap down, actually, because I think all the cars have taken the checkered flag now. But an enjoyable race, day of 750 Motor Club racing, Johnny.
Oh, a day as a whole, too right. It started with plenty of action and not necessarily in the good type for Scott Mittell in the Bike Sports Championship. Unfortunately, it's been a day to forget, all told, for him. But the rest of the categories delivering as only 750 Motor Club can, and particularly here at Anglesey. A debut, we think, on the international circuit. And for me, it's worked pretty well. We've had overtaking down into the hairpin. We've had some good action, particularly through this final corner as well, not least on the closing stages there for Paul Simpson, who just about got away with it and still finished on his class podium in P2. Over to you, Joshua, for the final results of the last race of the day.
So it was a win for Steve Hewson in round 2 of the Calm All Porsche Trophy, with Richard Harmon in second. The Class 2 winner, Christian Walker, took third ahead of his dad, John. Paul Simpson was fifth. Sixth was Gary Goodwin. Sam Callahan was seventh, ahead of the Class 3 winner, Jamie McHugh. Andrew Juice and Mike Kurtler completed the top 10. Stephen Cunniff, Graham Hurd, Gabriel Yilmaz and William Kurtler completed the top 14 on page 1 of our timing screens. Then we got Fernando Gattino in 15th, ahead of Clayton Simpson and Thomas McHugh. They were both Class 3 cars. They kept some trophies. Jessica Wilkinson was 18th, ahead of Andy Baker and Alvaro Crago. Rich Gravestock was 21st, a lap down, ahead of the Class 4 winner, Hugh Pert. Paul Hicks, Philip Waters, Chris Waltonspool, John Jones and Ken Van Howen were also finishers. Andrew Peck was the only driver we saw in issues, and he finished a couple of laps down. But all by 5 o'clock, we're done for day 1 of the 750 Motor Club, so we can all go and enjoy the sunshine and the scenery here at Anglesey. But we get to do it all again tomorrow, Johnny, for a similar time period, but now with more racing, with just one qualifying period tomorrow.
You do realise that's in my contract, that the day has to end before 5, otherwise I don't show up. I'm joking. But
that's why you do 24-hour races, isn't it?
Yes. Well, the thing is, because they're such long weekends, I have to make sure my club racing is nice and short to balance things out. No, just the way things have happened, and we've stayed nicely to time. Yeah, the odd lap here and there have been pinched, I suppose, but I think everyone understands that, and there's been 1 or 2 incidents that have needed clearing up, but otherwise we have stuck very much to timetable and an earlier start tomorrow, so to mark your card nicely for that, because it's another full day of live streaming.
Absolutely right. We'll be live around 9:30 tomorrow on Alpha Live, following that qualifying session for the Club Endurance Championship. And then we'll have racing twice tomorrow for low cost and Mazda MX-5 and the All Porsche Trophy. We'll have that 2-hour race at the end of the day for Club Enduro, and then single runs for Mazda 7s and Mighty Minis. So we have a entertaining 9 races to look forward to tomorrow. But for the final time today, we'll head downstairs into the sunshine with Andy McEwen.
Well, the Carb All Porsche Trophy entertaining us here at the end of the day. We've got 4 class winners, hopefully, to try and have a chat with. We're going to start with Steve Houston, then our overall and SP1 winner in the stunning Porsche Cayman. I mean, now that we actually get a chance to see this thing up close and personal, it is a thing of beauty, and it was the fastest car out on track with the fastest driver as well. Steve Houston, congrats on the race win. How did you find that one?
Good, hot, and not much grip out there. Certainly less than there was during quali, but we'd seen that through the times throughout the day. The race pace looked like they were going slower than most of the quali sessions. So other than that, yeah, clean, lights to flag, which is brilliant. So yeah, one of the Boxsters was catching me towards the end a little. So yeah, it kept me pushing on a bit.
It's always nice to lead lights to flag. Of course, we like to see a battle, but one thing I think maybe the viewers at home don't understand is that when you are leading and you're trying to manage that gap and look after the tyres and look after the car, it's as if you're in a battle, isn't it? It's mentally exhausting.
You're still working fairly hard, and you're still thinking about how hard to push, because you don't want to risk throwing it off whilst in the lead with no cars around you. And you know, but equally you want to maintain a gap so that if you do have any errors or any problems or anything at all, obviously the bigger the gap is, the better your chances of recovering from it.
Thoughts for tomorrow now? 2 more races, including the long one. What's the thoughts and the plan for tomorrow?
Well, the long one's what we're more used to. We're more used to doing endurance races than sprints. This is probably only about my 3rd or 4th sprint ever. So sprint tomorrow morning. Obviously, today's place will get us in pole again. So it's more of the same, I think, if we can.
Fingers crossed for you. Congratulations then to Steve, our race winner. Now we need Christian Walker next, the number 7 machine, winner in SP2. I've got his car, and I think I found Christian as well. So Christian Walker then, winner of the... Oh, no, that's not Christian Walker. Where is Christian Walker gone? I've walked past him. Sorry about that, Christian. Congrats, class victory. You look a bit exhausted, but good result.
Yeah, that is proper knackering, I can't lie. But yeah, it's a great race. I had Dad in front and Paul in front of him, all just fighting. And then Dad chucked up the inside. They sort of compromised, brought me back in, and then we were just fighting to the last couple of laps. But yeah, really good.
It is one of those tracks, isn't it, where because it's quite tight and technical, when you get a bit of side by side, it really can hold people up.
Yeah, it's just one person gets compromised. The next 2-3 corners, you've got all the momentum on them, and you just pull up alongside and you're fighting. And then either could go.
How much are you concentrating on your class position, and how much are you just trying to work sort of as far up the overall running order as you can?
Well, I mean, you're trying to get as far forward as possible, but you know, some of these cars are stupid quick, so we're just sort of fighting amongst ourselves. That's all we can really do, really.
Well, you did it pretty well. Class victory there for Christian. Now, Jamie McHugh is up this way somewhere, number 25. Jamie, there you are. Where's your car gone, Jamie? Well, we'll get you in front of your car so you get all your sponsors in and everything. Class victory within SP3 there. Good day's work so far.
Brilliant, yeah, it's a good race. Earlier we done the road sports as well, so it's like a 40-minute race, and then into this, so pretty knackered after that.
I thought this car looked familiar. I mean, that is a long day, and you've just been doing all the driving yourself.
No, I shared the drive this morning with my dad. He's out today in another 944 in this as well. Yeah, it's a good race. Glad to get the car back in one piece.
I think everyone's kind of that opinion, because the heat, it takes its toll on you, but also the cars as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And for some reason, it stinks of petrol in there, so you get out with a headache as well, you know. But yeah, no, it's one piece. Happy, good day.
We'll let you go and get a drink of something cold for the headache, you understand, medicinal purposes. Right, the last class winner is Hugh Peart, who was in the number 36 car down there. I think he stood still by his car, so a bit of up and down through the paddock to be done to find our final class winner then at the end of what's been a fantastic day here at Anglesey. Don't forget, another full day of racing to come tomorrow as well. We're live at 9:30 in the morning for that one. Hugh, victory in class SP4 then. How was that race for you?
It was brilliant. Lots of people to race with. Everybody was really close. It was real fun. Perfect weather, perfect circuit, so real fun.
You can tell we're British, because all anyone has done today is talk about the weather. Tomorrow could be a bit more of a challenge, I'm reliably informed.
Well, having the last couple of weeks, all I've seen is clouds on the Met Office predictions. I think, oh, it's going to be grim, it's going to be grim. So when you come up like this, you think celebration, and you can really drive it hard when it's dry.
Well, that's true, but you have to manage that, don't you? Perhaps if it is cooler tomorrow, in a way, it's one less thing to think about. You know, the car isn't going through quite as much, or the driver.
Yeah. It is really hot in there. Even after a quarter of an hour, car's red hot. But no, perfect day. Thank you.